What's up, my freedom-loving friend? We have breaking freedom news. I'm sure you've heard by now. Probably nobody on earth hasn't heard. President Trump is fully reinstated on Twitter. Breaking news just happened tonight. As of this recording, middle of the night here, just got back from a show. But I wanted to share with you a few what I think are key points to consider with this, why this is huge for democracy and freedom. And I also want to share with you 3 predictions, including, just because President Trump is reinstated on Twitter, will he actually use it? Because he owns a competing platform, Truth Social. So first off, whether you like President Trump or not, here's why I believe for everybody this is a good thing. It's a move towards respecting, preserving, and upholding our first constitutional right, freedom of speech. Now, obviously, as you could imagine, many leftists are absolutely freaking out right now. Twitter is just so fun to look at. Usually I don't like the platform, but it's so fun to look at. And then you've got people on the right just celebrating like they just found out Santa Claus is actually real. Such an amazing day for everybody. But why it's important, I mean, fundamentally important that President Trump is reinstated is it respects freedom of speech. Now, we've kind of moved into this territory where people think, well, freedom of speech is like freedom to say things that I agree with. That's what it means. And everything else is really violence. Okay. Free speech, period. And I'll tell you a secret of freedom of speech here in a second. But first, there's people who, I despise what they stand for, and I don't want them banned on Twitter. I just saw someone, they had a poll up, and forget who the hell they were asking about. Someone I despise. I don't know why I don't, but should they be banned on Twitter? And I answered the poll, no, they shouldn't be banned on Twitter. I don't like them. I'm not going to watch their stuff. I think they're actually a bad influence on people, but I think it's important that they're able to have a voice. And I think the only reason why anybody would want President Trump banned is because not they're afraid that he will incite violence or he did. We can get to that in a second. But I think they're actually afraid of truth. Now, if you have a platform where people can actually speak, the risk you carry is truth will be spread. I don't think they're afraid that violence is going to happen or negative stuff. I think they're afraid of truth. And if you study tyrannical regimes, their number one enemy is truth. The only way tyranny can spread is by making truth the enemy so that the lies can spread that gets people to say yes to tyranny as it delightfully floats in. Now, if you see people railing against, oh, this is horrible, Elon Musk he's a danger to society because he brought back President Trump and like he's going to do bad things, commit crimes. Anybody who's against freedom of speech, what they need to understand is freedom of speech is not freedom to commit crimes. There's crimes that can be committed and set up using words. That's illegal. And Twitter doesn't stand for that. No free speech platform stands for that. So you're not allowed to commit crimes. So there's a big difference. Freedom of speech, you can't incite violence, you can't, cause riots, you can't plan crimes. You're not allowed to do that using words. So let's just get that clear, because it's not a good excuse to ban freedom of speech when you just pretend, well, that free speech means you have freedom to commit crimes. No, 2 very different things. Thank you very much. And then I think another cool point to consider is when you look back, well, he was inciting violence on Twitter. That's why he should be banned. No, he wasn't. He wasn't. You can look back at President Trump's tweets and no violence. You can look at all his tweets. I believe he was banned on January 8th. You can look at his tweets that day, no violence plan, even his tweets on January 6th. Here's a very violent one. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. This tweet before that, even worse. Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. The media had a spin. He was using Twitter to incite violence. It was, in my opinion, just used to justify the tyrannical deplatforming of a sitting president of the United States. These people don't have to like Trump, but he's allowed to have a voice. Now, a couple interesting points, starting with Trump's popularity that's being shown here with his reinstatement, the dramatic rise in his followers. So what I mean by that is, I was just doing a comedy show in Corpus Christi, Texas. When I came off stage from doing my set, my phone was blowing up. Everybody's like, Trump's back on Twitter. This is amazing. Cool. I looked at his account, and his account said 250,000 followers. I'm like, well, he had, I think it was like 88 million followers before he was banned January of 2021. So I assumed like, okay, when the tyrants at Twitter originally banned him, they just struck down all his followers. So he's reinstated starting from zero. 250,000 in an hour, that's pretty good. Then I went back on stage, I did a Q&A with the VIP ticket holders. That took about a half hour. When I came back off stage from that, 30 minutes later, his followers were up from 250,000 to over 800,000. I'm like, wow. And now just a few hours later, as of the time of this recording, President Trump has 52 million followers on Twitter. Now, I assume this is all organic people. I mean, this is like world news. People love to follow President Trump, whether they love him or hate him. That creates love for following him. So it really shows a dramatic popularity with President Trump. Then just because it's fun to consider, you look at Joe Biden's Twitter. I don't even know if he knows he has a Twitter account, but he does. He's got 36 million followers. So by far, the president who's won more popular vote than any other president in the United States has been surpassed by President Trump's popularity over this span of a handful of hours at this point. That's just pretty interesting to consider. Then I like to just ponder this move by Elon. I think it is an incredible business move, an incredibly wise business move. The other day, Elon put out a poll. You may have seen it, heard about it, where he just said, reinstate Trump. He didn't even have a question mark on it. Just reinstate Trump, yes or no. And it was about 50, right now the poll is about 52% of people said yes, 48% said no. Over 15 million people voted in it. Funny, they were able to tabulate those votes rather quickly. Arizona, take note. So I don't know if that's the reason why Elon reinstated him. I doubt it. I think he's too smart for that. He's a legit businessman. Maybe he was just like, dude, let's just see if we should reinstate him. What do people want? I think this was premeditated because it is a very wise business move. Twitter has been a dwindling platform. Elon's job is to turn Twitter around, and I think he's using principles of democracy to do that. I think truth always wins. When you let truth out, people want that. So I think he wins with doing that. But when you just think about, probably the most popular tweeter in history, letting him back on the platform, not only is that good on principle, but is it good for business? Yeah, I mean, within a handful of hours, 52 million people are now re-following President Trump. The people are so active on Twitter. So I think this is an incredible business move. I would imagine other competing platforms, they won't reinstate Trump, but I think they'll feel the burn for not reinstating President Trump. I think internal people in those companies making decisions are probably considerate. They won't, but just they'll like, dude, like Twitter will have something we don't have that is a major attention grab. And grabbing attention with the social media platforms, that's basically what their business strategy comes down to. How can we grab people's attention? So I think that was a great business move on Elon's part. And by the way, I personally do believe that I think Elon is a principled person. I'm a fan. I'm not hook, line, and sinker. Like what we see is what we get. I think he's I don't know. I'm suspicious about some things, but one thing we do know is that he is a very smart businessman. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's just like, I don't really care if President Trump's reinstated or not, but it would be good for business, so let's do it. It wouldn't surprise me if that was a motivator of decision, and then he just uses the more like for PR, like, dude, I did this based on principle. Maybe he did, but it wouldn't surprise me. And either way, it's cool. Here's 3 predictions I have now that President Trump is reinstated on Twitter. The first prediction hinges around the question, will President Trump actually use Twitter and come back on and use the platform? You'd think like, well, it's a no-brainer. Of course he would. But the only reason why that question is being posed by myself and other people is because President Trump is one of the principal owners of the platform Truth Social, which of course he created and launched basically in opposition to Twitter. It's a free speech platform because he was banned off Twitter. Now, he has a responsibility to Truth Social as a company and shareholders. It's not a publicly traded company, but the private investors, to basically do everything he can to ensure the success of Truth Social. Him just going off full hook, line, and sinker, being way more active on Twitter, I think that would basically be the nail in the coffin of Truth Social. The platform, I don't think, really took off the way they hoped or is expecting. By contrast, a handful of hours, President Trump now has 52 million followers on Twitter. It'll be more by the time you see this. On Truth Social, it's between 4 and 5 million. I think like 4.25 or 4.5 million on Truth Social. So his reach is simply far less on Truth Social. I also heard, I can't confirm this, so fact checkers, get your fact-checking pens out. But I heard that he's got a legal agreement with the other investors of Truth Social that he can't post on any other social media without first posting the given piece of content on Truth Social. So they've got like an exclusive deal for first release of content. Now, if that's true, in theory, it could mean President Trump could say whatever he wants on Truth Social and then just reapply that same piece of content onto Twitter an hour later or a day later. I'm not really sure what the terms of this potential agreement say. If I were President Trump, I would look at, all right, already announced I'm running for president, I would be back on Twitter. I would imagine for him personally, being reelected, having a strong campaign for 2024, and of course the lead up, I would imagine that is more important to him than the success of Truth Social. It's just one of his bajillion businesses. And it's probably not even close to being one of the most lucrative ones. So I would definitely be getting back on Twitter. I also imagine just his amusement with being able to tweet out, have the world at large see his latest thought, see people melt down, see people support him. I would imagine even that, call it egoic aspect of him, wouldn't be able to help himself. But also it's just, in my opinion, a huge mistake for a major campaign to not be on Twitter where he's got tens and tens of millions of people watching him. So that question, will he actually get back on Twitter and use it? The other piece I should say about that is maybe a month or two ago when Elon buying Twitter got reignited, it looked like it's actually going to happen. President Trump released a statement, I believe first published on Truth Social, saying, hey, I hope Elon does buy Twitter. I think it would do good. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he can turn around this failing company. But I don't see myself going back, even if he reinstates me. I like Truth Social better. So that, and I'm paraphrasing, as you can probably tell. That's what President Trump said. I don't think he'll really be bound to those words. I think he'll change his mind. Second prediction is lefties. With all the lefties melting down, their narrative is, this is terrible, Trump's back, he's going to incite violence again. Never did in the first place. My prediction is those who are accusing President Trump of he's gonna incite violence again, I think they're the ones that will commit violence. Not necessarily all the individuals by any stretch, but the side. Things in our country have been very uncivil psychologically, mostly civil physically when it comes to violence. But when there has been violence, it's unfortunately seem like the majority of it has come from the leftist lunatics that preach love, acceptance, equity, unless you disagree with me. So I think that's what's going to happen. And by the way, some of them have the argument of he shouldn't be on Twitter because he might incite violence. Thinking someone's going to commit a crime does not make them guilty of that crime. Like, cops can't arrest you because, well, you might rob a bank. We think you might, so we're going to arrest you. So it's just a very ungrounded, emotionally reactive perspective to justify them saying like, hey, like, I don't like Trump, so I don't want him to be able to talk. So if they just said that, they'd be at least more honest. Third prediction, the Department of Justice will get even deeper into Elon Musk's business in an attempt to do all they can to shut him down. You know, I mentioned earlier, the left, I don't think they fear Trump. I don't think the left is truly against free speech. What the left, I'm talking about the extreme left, what the left is really against is truth. Truth, as I said, is the number one enemy of tyranny. Tyranny cannot succeed if truth is running rampant, because lies, corruption, deception, propaganda, it can't hold up to the strength of truth. Truth is just like a very renewable resource. Tyranny, propaganda, and all the mechanisms of tyranny, they're non-renewable resources. It takes a lot of effort. They can't possibly compete with the power of truth. That's why they try to kill truth. You can't kill truth, but they kill it from the awareness of people. That's their attempt. So they've already said the Department of Justice, we're investigating Elon because, like, you know, he's about free speech, and that's, well, it's in our Constitution, but you know, we should really probably get rid of the whole Constitution. So I think they'll get even deeper into Elon. They'll scrutinize the hell out of him. They'll look for any little breadcrumb that they can use to take Elon out of power of Twitter, shut Twitter down. It's unfortunate, but I think they'll very much attempt to. Good news is Elon's a smart guy. He's a very rich guy with a ton of resources, legal teams. Elon knows the law, so I don't think they'll be successful in taking the guy down, but God knows they'll try. It'll be like not the January 6th committee, but Elon Musk committee. It'll just be an absolute witch hunt for the guy. And with that said, Trump is back on Twitter. The movie that we're living in just got even more interesting. It's entertaining. I think Elon has become the funniest person on Twitter. Watching him troll woke Twitter employees, watching him troll AOC, that's worth the price of admission. But Elon's bringing back the only guy that I think was ever funnier than Elon on Twitter, President Trump. And again, to me, I'm most excited about this. Like, I voted for President Trump. I'll vote for him again. But beside that, I am most excited that President Trump's reinstated on Twitter because it is a powerful step for free speech and the principles behind it. So with that said, let me know what you think of President Trump being reinstated on Twitter. Love to hear your thoughts, whether you agree, disagree, whatever your perspective is. Love to see it in the comments, and enjoy the entertaining meltdown of people acting like they're scared on Twitter. Which, by the way, the majority I see are very supportive of this, but the smaller minority of watching people melt down, it's hilarious. Like, watching people be scared of something that's not going to hurt them, that is tremendously hilarious. Very different of watching someone be scared of something that could actually hurt them. That's not funny. Like watching someone, you know, if there's a bear behind them and they see it, That's not a funny situation. But watching someone think there's a bear behind them that's trying to hunt them down, it gets a little funnier. That's kind of what's happening with the meltdowns on Twitter. So enjoy the show, my friend. And until I see you next time, stay free.